have to suggest that Baba enumerates a number of reasons that the avatar comes into creation. He has a pretty broad job description. But can I just quickly risk a tiny venture into free will? And this is at the end so that you see I can escape quickly by the escape hatch. So I think I would suggest that one think a little bit about the psychic energy knotted up in samskaras. And Baba points out that for many, 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 many reincarnations, the actions of the individual are almost completely mechanically produced by the samskaras that are relevant to the situation in hand. In other words, there ain't any free will in that period at all. But then by implication, what is suggested is that when you start to unknot samskaras, and the energy is not, let's say, just controlled by the form, the pattern in which the samskara had been formed, that energy is available. And it's always seemed to me that at that point, the true component, the basic component of free will comes into being, and that is disposable, free psychic energy. But then I would immediately suggest that we've got to take a leaf from Baba's notebook again, that when that happens, normally it is intended to go into the requirements, the energy requirements for movement along the spiritual path. Baba says that is tremendously demanding of psychic energy. This is not Don Stevens imagining this point. Baba says this is one of the great reasons not to worry, because you need to start storing that psychic energy to make real progress on the spiritual path. Just as simple as that. So, in a sense, you have disposable psychic energy when you start to get somewhere with these samskaric knots, but it ought to be used in getting somewhere on the spiritual path. I think that's all straight from Baba. Then I would also suggest that I believe that we have to take Baba very, very seriously when he implies that we have quite a great deal of flexibility how we go along the path to perfect that charge, that particular responsibility of divine individualized consciousness. So I think that we have all sorts of free decision at that particular point, free will that comes into the picture. But the one place we do not have any free will is about the design, the pattern of my responsibility of the iota of infinite individualized consciousness, which was mapped out in the beginning when the whim started to surge, as we discussed this morning. Very charming and very energetic gal in the London group, when this came up in the seminar for God's Peace. She said, you know, I just suddenly had a picture. It was just as at the surging of the whim. Just stop right there. And there is a tremendous picture of infinite God and all of God's infinitude. And suddenly, it breaks into a jigsaw puzzle. And the jigsaw puzzle is an infinitude of pieces of individual dropped souls, each different from the other. But they all make up the picture of God's infinite individualized consciousness. And everybody just sort of thought, God, that is a really an inspired insight, because it makes so much sense. So I leave that particular one with you. You've got the particular part of the jigsaw puzzle. How you go about it, whether you do it fast or whether you do it stubbornly or so on, you can make the decision. That's where your free will comes in. But you can't get lost. And you have got to fulfill it finally. It's got to come back to perfection. So, shall we be silent with Baba for a moment? dearly beloved Bob, always in your loving be. Amen.
Thank you very much.
Amen.